Buckeye Nation, we have a treat for you tonight. Yes, the Wolverines, the beloved Wolverine fan team rivalry is on the channel tonight. Joining us are Cliff and Matt. Cliff, why don't you introduce yourself first, and then we'll toss it over to the younger gentleman.
Wait, why does he get to go
Not
first?
to be ageist again, but I was ageist last time. I felt I'd be ageist this time too.
It's ageist. That's youngest. No, I'm old now. That's cool. No, go ahead.
Your microphone is coming through something other than your microphone. So, hey, I'm Cliff from Big Ten Team Rivalry Show. Done a lot of videos with these two here. They are great Buckeye fans. Glad to be here. We are having an interesting time now with college football and all the changes and all that. But we have a show over on the Big Ten Team Rivalry channel where we do right now we're in the off season, so we're doing some produced videos and that. We're trying to build up some what are we calling them? A little bit comedy bits, kind of things like that.
Trying to have more fun.
Things to keep us entertained while we're in the off season, while we watch our friends from the South enjoy their national championship.
Yeah. And I'm me. I exist, so hi.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, Rob, get us started here with that first question. What you got for these gentlemen tonight?
All right, so guys. So the other day, news broke.
Oh, you're starting with the fire.
From Yahoo Sports that 137-page rebuttal was sent into the NCAA by Michigan. And what are your guys' first thoughts on? And here it is, and this is really important to me. What are your guys' first thoughts on who was actually the tipster? After all the hate that Ryan Day and his brother got.
Yeah. Dad, go ahead.
So I was watching, I caught Isaiah Hole the other day, and he was saying that everything that came out in this document none of it is new. It's all old news. So we've got a lot of insiders who have said different things. We've got a lot of fans who pick up. Obviously, it's social media. So once something hits social media, it gets reducted and then turned into, flamethrowers and that kind of thing. So I remember them saying months ago that it was somebody from inside who was part of this whole thing. Still don't know who it is. And I don't know. So if it's possible, and I'm just going to throw this out there, just being a conspiracy theorist, it could be that somebody from outside the school found somebody inside the school to work together. And now the guy inside the school has been caught or was caught a while ago. But it's not that big a surprise. I mean, there's always disgruntled people in any organization that are going to do that kind of thing. They're going to turn on you and all that. So yeah, we can leave everybody else out of this. Somebody from Michigan got a burr up their butt and wanted to expose what they thought they were exposing. And again, I'll be honest, I still not convinced that Michigan really broke any serious rules, but at any rate, that aside, somebody gets a burr up their butt and they want to go after somebody, and it's always fun to, tear down the boss if you get a chance, especially if they're a high profile boss. So it's sad, but it's not like it's a surprise, I guess.
Gotcha.
All that said.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, you'd love to be able to say that like everybody's loyal and everybody's, locking arms and in it together, but I don't know. I've worked at too many offices to know that that's just never going to happen. Okay, Matt, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't realize you weren't done, so my bad. I want to point out, so that article that you're referring to talks about, like, it has an editorial part in it, which I thought you weren't supposed to do that in journalism. I thought if you're delivering the news, you're just supposed to deliver the news. I didn't realize you could have an opinion. I mean, I understand the mainstream media has been a thing for the past however many years, but this is sports journalism. We're supposed to be held to a higher standard, right? Anyway, I think so. It says that Sharon Moore deleted 52 texts from Connor Stallions out of pure frustration, and that he was frustrated with Connor Stallions, like apparently without even knowing the full situation, just because he was angry that he would endanger the program and stuff like that. it doesn't say anything about him deleting the text because he knew anything. It doesn't say anything about him deleting the text because anything bad actually happened. It was just out of frustration that this happened in the first place, which kind of makes sense given his reaction to winning the Penn State game the day Jim Harbaugh was suspended, or I guess Harbaugh was suspended the day before. So like you kind of understand his emotions and stuff like that a little bit more because of that. But I see a whole bunch of people on Twitter saying things like, "Oh, sure, this is the smoking gun. Surely Sharon Moore knew." I'm sorry, everyone has deleted texts from people that they don't like. I mean, I have a slew of exes who their texts are no longer on my phone. Why? Because I don't like them. Because I'm fairly upset with them, Well, I was anyway. That was years ago, but they're not texting me now, are they? Why? Because I don't like them. So why is this like, oh, you deleted 52 text messages? That's the smoking gun. No, it's not. I mean, I don't know what the texts were, but that's not a smoking gun. And furthermore, the only evidence that the NCAA has actually been able to produce is footage of Connor Stalions' mom going to a Purdue game and pointing the phone at Purdue's sidelines and getting information that Connor Stalions actually was already able to get over the television broadcast anyway. So where's the evidence? And frankly, personally, I never bought into the, Ryan Day's brother is trying to get at Michigan thing. Like I didn't actually think that was the case. I thought it would have been hilarious. And I think I tweeted once or twice buying into it just as a joke. But I don't think that
007.
What's that?
It was a little too 007.
It was a little too 007. Yeah.
But
For
sure. Here's the funny thing about the Ryan Day and his brother PI firm thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually Zach Smith, Menace to Sports, who threw that out there just carelessly and as the ultimate troll job to say, he's like, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
Michigan fans are looking for answers. I'm gonna throw this out there. Let's see if they run with it. And they did run with it. And here's the thing. And I was looking on Twitter the other night too. Even though, and some of these comments just crack me up. Even though it's in that 137 page document that it was someone within Michigan who tipped the NCAA.
Yeah.
Some Michigan fans are saying, are they gonna expose Ryan Day and his brother at the pre-hearing? And I'm just like, are you serious? It literally says there in the fine print, and mind you, this was a rebuttal sent in by Michigan. So this is the documents that Michigan has that they typed up.
Well, and that's where we gotta as a fan base, that's where we get lost too, is who said what? Like you just said, Zach Smith said it first, but he was trolling, which makes sense. But we get these insiders. When we talk about, who the guy on the inside who is the tipster, I'm not as frustrated with him as I am with all of the insiders who run with this stuff. They got to be first. They got to get their clicks. So they got to get out there and do sensational videos so that they can get the attention. And that gets the fan base up on the ladder, or at least part of the fan base. And then everything just gets spun out of control. That's what's really frustrating. It's almost like whoever the tipster was, I can sit back and I say, whatever. You got upset, you're disgruntled. I get it. But it's all of these so-called insiders who just say the most outrageous things just so they can get attention.
Well, even now, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of clickbaity titles. You have to read the full article to get the full gist of the story. And even then, you might have to read multiple articles to make sure, okay, what angle is this being said from? Because one of the titles I read today was Michigan admits to wrongdoing in sign stealing scandal, but is fighting the NCAA. I was like, probably not admitting that they did wrong. That's a 137-page document.
Yeah, those two things don't go together. Yeah,
that's something that Garrison. That's something that Garrison from Ohio State at the Voice of College Football was saying, and Scarlet and Blue show. Which I like Garrison. I like him and Bryce have a great show, and the Voice of College Football is obviously awesome. But Garrison was saying, Michigan literally admitted to wrongdoing in this. When? Where? How? What?
Yeah.
Why would they be taking the NCAA to court? I mean, and I understand Michigan self-imposed a suspension against Harbaugh for the first 3 games of last season as well, or sorry, 23. That was from my understanding, that was just done to be like, okay, look, we get it. We're done with this whole thing. I think that was also mostly a Burgergate thing. We'll just suspend him for 3 games. Can we just call it good? And the NCAA kind of did like a, maybe we'll see kind of a thing. And then all of a sudden, boom, the sign stealing stuff blows up and we're doing this all over again. But also, actually, now that I say that, I remember he wasn't suspended by the NCAA for the last 3 games of the 23 season. He was suspended by the Big Ten. The Big Ten is the one that actually, So the NCAA was never actually involved, but any punishment, any self-imposed punishment that the NCAA put on it, or that Michigan put on itself, was never going to be enough for the NCAA. And you could go down all sorts of rabbit holes. Is it because Harbaugh was for paying the players? Was it because Harbaugh was trying to take money out of the NCAA's pocket? I don't know, kind of, maybe. I'm honestly shocked that this has gotten as much attention and has been drawn out as much as it has been anyway, considering that there's literal physical evidence of schools from that conference down south paying for prostitutes, taking kids to strip clubs, bars, all sorts of horrible business.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. And, it's just like, they said that, oh, well, everyone does this. Well, it just so happens that Michigan got caught. It's and I was thinking about this today, and this may sound kind of outlandish. It's kind of like a Mexican drug cartel, smuggling pounds and pounds and pounds of dope across the board. Like, well, you know what? El Chapo and his buddies, they smuggled 100 pounds of dope last week. You're just like, okay. We don't have any. We didn't catch them. We caught you, so you guys got caught. It's still illegal. So.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point too, and it's a terrible defense. Obviously, it doesn't work to say, especially if they're talking to the NCAA, it doesn't work to say, well, everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, what about it?
The underlying aspect of it is everybody is doing it, but you're right. Michigan is the one who got caught. So if everybody's doing it, Michigan did it the worst.
Yeah, after reading that, report and stuff, for a guy, who's a Connor Stallings, Marine, actually, no, he's not a Marine. He went to, where do you go? The Naval Academy?
Navy. Yeah, Navy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went to the Naval Academy, does all this recon, but he probably heard of, let's not leave a money trail type, let's not leave receipts and a money trail and stuff and all that. So it was kind of like, in a way, he got himself caught. He definitely got himself caught.
So that's where we got to put, is it, best construction, worst construction? Did he leave that trail because he was dumb, or did he leave that trail because he didn't think he was doing anything wrong? I mean, as a fan, obviously I'm a Michigan fan, so I'm going to put the best construction on it. You guys are Ohio State fans. You put the worst construction on it. No,
sure.
No, not putting you guys down or anything. I mean, obviously it would be just as bad for us to put the best construction on it when it would be obvious that he was doing something wrong. But there is the possibility that he didn't think he was doing anything wrong, and that's why the trail was there. There's also the possibility that it all gets blown out of proportion. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's fun to talk about, but it's getting so frustrating on X and that it's just people want to burn Michigan down for stealing signs, which we all know is legal. They're just not supposed to go into a stadium and scout, upcoming opponents. But so far they've said that he was only at 1 game, I guess. And I don't even know. I thought that's what it said, but I forgot where I was going with that. But anyway,
yes,
best construction, worst construction. And I'm going to keep putting the best construction on it until they actually come out and Michigan says, okay, we're getting wins vacated and our natty is gone. So then I'll be like, all right, yep, you guys screwed us all over. Thanks. Appreciate it.
I was reading, in the report that, I think it was a low-level staffer at Michigan. Actually, I think it was either went to Mike Hart or Partridge and said, hey, like, I don't want to be a part of this. What Stallings is do. I get that sign stealing is legal. In-game sign stealing is, but taking it too far. And I actually, I think it was, Greg Schiano from Rutgers who actually called. Was it Mike Carter or Sharon Moore? I think it was Mike Carter, Sharon Moore, and said, hey, like, just want to let you know that, one of your guys is taking this sign stealing a little too far.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, I don't know, this is, and honestly, like Peter and we have not, I looked at the last video, we talked about this,
Mhm.
and it was 5 months ago. It was only because, the NCAA released a notice of allegations against Michigan. It's our job to report the latest news. So that's the only reason why we did. Other than that, we've moved on, but for
Yeah.
some reason the NCAA isn't letting us move on. And
Right.
it's I look at it as this, the FBI, and here's another comparison.
Mhm.
The FBI doesn't go to someone to interrogate them without the information that they know what's happened. They already have all the answers to the questions they're going to ask.
Right.
So it's just like, does the NCAA know more?
Well, that's what makes this whole thing so confusing, because the NCAA said in one of their reports that their evidence is incontrovertible, that they've got Michigan nailed to the wall and Michigan needs to give it up and just accept their punishment. And then Stallions gets fired, Partridge gets fired, Harbaugh gets suspended. Michigan still goes 15-0, wins a national championship. The president of the NCAA says, "Oh, they won it fair and square." And now Michigan is saying that they're going to fight this tooth and nail. And I'm like, so what happened? What you got it at one, and then Tony Petitti and other Big Ten coaches are like, screaming at Michigan, but then was Charlie Baker, the NCAA, says no, it's fair and square, and it's like at one point they want to kill each other, and then at the next point it's like no, everything's fine, and then they want to kill each other, and then everything's fine. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, can we just tell us what happened?
Yeah, and
let's be done with it, because this is ridiculous.
And the Big Ten even admitted that they were suspending Harbaugh for those 3 games without any firm evidence. They just said it looks like maybe they did something wrong, so we're just going to go ahead and suspend them.
Because
they didn't actually have anything.
Because there's brand protection there. So it doesn't matter. So at this point, Michigan is tainted no matter what happens, because it's about brand protection. That's why these scandals get covered up, because they got to protect the school, they got to protect the conference, and so that's why we've had abuse scandals at Michigan State. And I think there was one at Ohio State, and obviously there was one at Penn State.
Wrestling.
And they happen at all the schools because they're covering them up because of brand protection.
Yeah.
And then the Big Ten has to do it, and then the NCAA, which is both the governor of the whole system and then also as incompetent as it gets, and in some cases as corrupt as it gets, and they're the ones running the whole thing, or not running the whole thing, governing the whole thing. And it's just making our head spin. And I mean, Mac and I do our show, and we're just like, we just want to watch football, man. We just want to talk about football. Just like you guys, you just want to talk about football.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like, again, Peter and I, we moved on in terms of talk about this in the channel, but again, the NCAA won't let us forget about it. Now, what do you think this will do to recruiting, having this cloud over the program's head in terms of like recruits that have being like, man, like, is something going to happen to Michigan? Isn't it? Is it worth my time to commit here? Should we venture other places? Just, because I did read something on X that, there's this, so-called, trickle down effect where, this negativity that clouds the program is, now having an effect on, the recruiting trail.
Yeah, I saw a former recruiter posted on X that he said it's already impacting it. But then I also saw that they brought in another. Didn't they bring in another 5-star? They've got Bryce Underwood. I thought, or no, they're talking to the guy Mater D.
Yeah.
They're talking to him.
Chris Henry, wide receiver. Yeah, actually, Ohio State committed at this time. So
yeah.
So funny thing about that for Chris Henry Jr., literally when EJ Holland posted that Sherrone Moore and Michigan were meeting with him, he posted a picture of Brian Hartline, the championship celebration with a cigar. And so it's just like, I'm not, as long as he's there, I'm there. So
all right, yeah.
But
I don't know, Mac, you can discuss that recruiting bit if you want.
I mean, I don't think that this is going to affect recruiting because we're still in the middle of it, and people still think that a hammer is coming, and yet Michigan has its best recruiting class since 2019, maybe. I mean,
they're putting together a class here for sure.
Yeah, they've got 23 commits. 2 of them are 5 stars.
The funny thing is, sorry, Mac. The
No,
funny
you're good.
thing is that it's the best recruiting class since the Brady Hoke era. Since
Yeah,
the end, which is hilarious.
It is, yeah, that is hilarious.
Man.
It's better than the national championship class.
It's
which I think is hilarious.
Well, and yeah, I mean, and it may even go down as one of Michigan's best ever by the time they're done here. But like, they won a national championship with a recruiting class that came in somewhere in the mid-teens, maybe even high teens.
Right.
So like, I don't even need Michigan to be pulling in, super high rated recruits, at least not as far as like 247 and on 3 are concerned, and Rivals is so dumb. Rivals, as soon as a kid commits to Michigan, Rivals drops them 4 or 5 spots in their rankings. It makes no sense. But then they'll go and commit somewhere else, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, they rose up 5 spots in our rankings again. Wouldn't you know that? Hurt the dirt.
Yeah.
I think that once a recruit commits to a Big Ten school, their ranking drops just automatically. Yeah. But
I've seen people complain on
commit
11
to
Warriors about
an
the
SEC
thing.
school.
People, so people from Ohio
just...
State noticed the same thing.
Well, drop-ins going on too, yeah.
Okay, there you
Especially
go.
Especially on the ESPN rankings.
Which makes me sad because Rivals used to be my favorite. That's how I got into recruiting. I used to be a lot more into recruiting than I am these days, but Rivals was like the site, and now they're one of the worst. They're hanging on by a thread of relevance.
That's that's just kind of a wild thing. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the recruiting rankings right now, why would they, I mean, the question is too, why would this impact recruiting when you can come to Michigan and still make millions of dollars through NIL? I mean, whether or not you're allowed in the postseason at that point kind of doesn't matter. So do you want the paycheck? But that being said, I still don't think that Michigan's going to get any sort of a postseason ban or vacated wins or anything like that either. So I don't know. I don't think that this is going to do anything to the program at all, honestly.
Yeah, that's why I'd really like just some form of resolution. I mean, daggone, like, can we just come to a conclusion about this? Like, there's always going to be the Ohio State fans or Michigan State fans that are going to put an asterisk on the national title. And there's always going to be, the Michigan fans claiming that Ohio State didn't beat Team X, Y, and Z, so their title is illegitimate as well. But it's like, can we just man, it's crazy. But we need a resolution because
it could be
months. It's a legitimate title in my mind. They went 15-0 on the field despite all the adversity that came their way. And I hope we don't have to make another video on this, but probably when the actual conclusion comes to this, we'll finally wrap it up and finally never talk about it again.
I mean, they're saying it could be years, though, is the thing.
Oh, years? Oh, jeez.
It takes the NCAA that long to get through. I mean, there's a bunch of red tape. There's a bunch of bureaucracy. The NCAA has a whole bunch of egg on its face, and it's hanging on by a thread financially as it is. I mean, you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the NCAA right now. I mean, you heard – was it earlier this season or at least earlier last year that the Big Ten and the SEC had kind of already started maybe messing around with the idea that they would form their own league. And the NCAA is just like, no, please don't do that. So now they can't come out of this with any more egg on their face because they're just going to look all the more stupid, which is going to give the Big Ten and the SEC all the more reason to leave and get their own TV contracts. And the Big Ten and the SEC are pulling the rest of FBS with them in terms of TV contracts as it is. So they don't need the NCAA. The NCAA needs them. So the NCAA needs to be right in terms of it's like you guys – the NCAA needs to be right in terms of thinking that college football needs a governing board like the NCAA. And if they don't end up right about that, then that's the last straw. At least the Big Ten and the SEC can then look at that and say, like, well, we don't even need you to govern us at this point because you're just causing problems that didn't exist. So we don't need you. We're moving on.
And isn't it was it Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, and Notre Dame are actually like the 4 biggest draws for television?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Pretty,
they've got
pretty sure.
they got a huge card to play there.
Yeah. But it's gonna be interesting to see what happens when this all wraps up. But I will say that the funny thing is that Michigan was that good that I don't even think they needed to explore any of these avenues. Getting Connor Stallions, doing all the sign stealing, and especially that.
Well, Connor Stallions
that
as an analyst is fantastic. So he made a difference. I know there, like I see some people on Twitter saying, "Well, why was he even there if he didn't make a difference?" And he did make a difference. He's an incredible analyst. He's an incredible signal stealer. Well, he's an incredible signal stealer and decipherer and all of that. And you need that on your team. Every team has one of those. That's not a problem. That's what football is. You're trying to figure out what the other team is doing, and he's got an incredible analytical mind for that. So yeah, like you're saying, it'll be interesting to find out if he did go too far, and if he did, why? Because it didn't seem like they needed to.
But it's been like it's been a year and a half. If he went too far, where's the evidence?
Yeah.
Well, that's
You
but the
think there'd be a
NCAA says
resolution
they
on
have
that?
the evidence. They're just not. They haven't shown it yet.
Why?
So they're
I don't
pretty
know.
much like this is pretty much Congress on Pennsylvania Avenue, and there's like literally like no no like honesty or
Right,
gosh,
right.
what's the word I'm looking for?
Transparency. maybe?
Yes, transparency. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's no transparency, and we're all like scratch our heads like is there a smoking gun? Is this disinformation? Like who knows?
Right.
But like,
I
think
gotta
about
say
it.
too. Give me 1 second, Mac. I gotta say too that like you were talking about the super conference, that if that happens or the NCAA dissolves before this gets resolved, this is going to go on forever.
The
Thank goodness.
discourse will, but the actual
2032, we'll
investigation
finally know what happened.
The worst thing that could possibly happen is if the NCAA dissolves or the super conference is formed and they don't need the NCAA anymore, because that'll be the fodder for fan rivalries for ages to come.
It already is. No one's going to accept, like, there are your reasonable college football fans and there are your unreasonable college football fans. The unreasonable college football fans are going to be hanging on to this one for the rest of ever.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
As soon as Michigan wins their next national championship, they're going to say, oh, well, this one was actually, they might not even say that this one was legit. They'll probably say, like, oh, well, you probably cheated again.
Yeah.
Well, and that segues really well.
The whole conversation.
Yes. That segues really well into another thing we wanted to discuss tonight. Has the obsession with the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry and with winning back-to-back national championships like Michigan and Ohio State did in 23 and 24, has the online verbiage become too vitriolic, or is it at an unhealthy place, the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry in the fan bases, or is this just how it's going to be when both of the programs are kind of peaking?
It's too much. Cancel the rivalry.
I can't handle it. I can't go outside. I can't walk around my hometown.
I think it's gone way too far. I actually was telling Mac the other day I had to get off Twitter for a while because it was just it just starts to eat away at you. That's why I love talking to you guys, because you guys are reasonable fans. So we can talk to you guys and talk football, and it's great. But man, the stuff going on online is just it's scary at times too. The way some of the things that people will say.
It's pretty remarkable when even in the Ohio State fan base after the loss to Michigan, the things that were said to his younger son and his younger daughters that are in school, in public schools and in the Columbus area, and just addresses posted online. And there's a lot of hatred between the fan bases right now. There is, and a lot of asterisks. I don't think they're legitimate at all. I mean, I think both titles were completely legit.
Yeah, they were. I mean, both of them were. I guess what I don't understand is, and maybe I shouldn't say this, having a football channel and then also being on your football channel, but like, who cares? It's a game. it's a really fun game. That's why we like
That's
talking
right.
about it. It's an awesome game, but like at the end of the day, it's just a game, guys. Like, calm down. Somebody called you a dumbass on Twitter earlier because you were celebrating Michigan's national championship. Like,
My goodness.
shut up. What why take, the time out of your life to comment something as rude as that?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
I can't.
Yeah,
Right.
and here's the thing that has really annoyed me, and I'm planning on making this a video because the like literally right after Ohio State won the national championship, we have both fan bases putting asterisks on each other's national championships, and it's just
I
like,
did it as a
can we
joke.
just
I was
can-
joking.
can we
I
just-
knew I was
Matt
going
got
to upset
unfollowed because of
people,
it. That's
so
good.
I only did it to upset people because I am an asshole. That's it.
He said, I'm
It's
an
just like-
instigator. Better watch out.
Yes.
can we just celebrate these national champions? Can we just celebrate the fact that the first time since the 1940s, or I don't know, forever, that the Big Ten has won back-to-back national championship? It's great for the
Mhm.
conference because at the end of the day, the SEC prides themselves on their national championships.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
that's just the way it is. But yeah, we have Michigan, Ohio State just because of the rivalry. We're going at it. We're saying, okay, you guys cheated. Okay, you guys lost to us. You got fourth place in the Big Ten. You didn't win your conference. It's a participation trophy. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Ignoring the fact that LSU
Yeah.
was the first ever to lost national championship back in 2002. Unfortunately, defeating Ohio State that year, but
Oh, I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
and it'll go to the other question you wanted to talk about was the state of college football. And
Yeah.
it's we got a 12-team playoff. You can lose 2 games and still go to the national championship. Obviously, we're getting more and more NFL like, and in the NFL, what we found out what the last time an NFL team won the Super Bowl going undefeated was 1972 Miami, I think.
76.
76.
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure.
So yeah,
and
I think
you
so.
lose 2 and you win the
That'd
natty.
be good.
Okay, that's fine.
I was and you know what, if this gets I'm not trying to call anybody out and stuff, not trying to ruffle any feathers, but
Let 'em have it.
on the Michigan Voice of College Football show, it wasn't TJ, but it was Johnny D
Yeah.
who said
Really?
that Ohio State has had this precedent that you could have a cupcake schedule, get 10 wins and waltz in the playoffs, win national championship. And I called them out. And I said, don't be that fan. We won fair and square. And you guys, it was a great run, but you can't say it was the greatest run in all of college football playoffs because there's a difference between 4-team and obviously 12-team. I would say that Ohio State has set a precedent on what a run in the 12-team playoff should look like, and just like, okay, if you want to one up us, be my guest, give it a try.
Mhm.
So,
Well, however it works out, I mean, Ohio State is the first, so you have that claim for the rest of eternity.
I think 2 things can be true at once. I don't like the 12-team playoff, not because Ohio State won it. That's, congratulations. I don't like the 12-team playoff because I think that it minimizes the effect of the regular season.
I'm with you on that.
Well, to be candid and honest with you guys, I don't think that Ohio State should have technically been in the playoffs, but they were there because it was a 12-team playoff. Now that works out. And they totally proved that they were meant to be there. They totally proved on the field that they were the best team in the nation with that incredible historic run that they went on. They trounced everybody. Texas took an extra second or two. The game against Notre Dame was basically over before halftime until Notre Dame decided to get a little frisky with things. But even then, they still weren't actually going to come back, were they? That was an incredible run. So 2 things can be true at once. 1, Ohio State set the standard for what you should look like in a 12-team playoff. 2, the 12-team playoff kind of sucks because the regular season is diminished.
Well, that is the thing. In the previous 154 seasons, Ohio State never would have been able to play for the national championship. And
Right.
that is a remarkable thing to think about. And even in 2014, had the playoff not existed, once again, Ohio State would not have been playing for a national championship.
Yep.
Here's the thing, Mac. I feel like you and I are similar on this one. I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to college football. I hate that tradition is fading away and being ripped away from the sport. I love the importance of winning every single game, showing up every single Saturday. I think we're being robbed of some things, but what can I say, man?
Well,
my team won the national title. We benefited from it. And so, of course, I'm happy with it. But, I didn't want to go above 8. I thought 8 was the perfect cap. I thought 8 was the perfect number. I thought it never should have gone over that. But then the counter argument is every other level of NCAA college football has a 16-team playoff, and we're certainly headed in that direction. I think it'll be before the new decade comes, before we're at 16 teams.
Yeah.
Here's how you can make the regular season relevant. I'm pretty sure I commented on your guys' video. So make it a 16-team playoff.
Yeah.
And instead of having these neutral fields, have like the NFL. Make it home field advantage throughout the playoffs for the top 2 seeds, and that's based on who finishes 1 and 2 in the AP poll at the end of the regular season. Have a wild card where, you obviously like the first round of the college football playoffs where you're going to someone else's field, but keep it that way throughout the playoffs. And here's the other thing. I know that, okay, what are we going to do about the bowl games? Have those smaller schools be able to get more exposure, more money for their schools by being able to participate in those bowl games. But I mean, that's how you can make the regular season relevant. I mean, who the heck wouldn't want home field advantage during a 16-team playoff? Could you imagine like an SEC school having to come to like South Bend or Columbus or Ann Arbor in January?
Well, Tennessee did.
That would be, well, let's be honest. That was like not even like the coldest part. I'm talking but it was like 1 degrees type of cold.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like this is peak Michigan winter right now. That would be terrible.
Yes, that's absolutely true. But there's another way you can get that experience without expanding the playoff. They could just play during the regular season. I mean, you could have that game still happen. I mean, maybe the weather wouldn't necessarily shake out the way you want it to, but like, if you were actually like, if you found yourself at the end of the college football season, at the end of this last season, and you were just like, man, that was a great season, but I genuinely need to know what would have happened if Ohio State and Tennessee had played. Schedule the games during the regular season. And I understand that they have their schedules already set in stone for years in advance and stuff like that, but that's why they need to bring about the Super League, and that's why we need relegation and blah, 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 blah. I could go on forever about that. But like, that's kind of why they need it. If we're going to end up into an NFL model, then they need to set up the entire season to be like the NFL. We need the Big Ten, the SEC to absorb a couple more teams. They need to split things off like the NFC and the AFC. You need the North, you need the South, you need the East, you need the West teams. You need the playoff structure to be around that then, so that you can have like Ohio State, Tennessee either meet up in the regular season or they end up in their respective playoff spots and maybe you get the game then, and then you can do the home field advantage that way. But I don't think, I mean,
get rid of conference championships too. That they're meaningless. Because the reason why I say that is Penn State lost, Texas lost, even SMU lost, and there were no big consequences. What's the point?
Could you use conference championships the way they do in the NFL as for seeding?
So if they decide to form a super conference, you make that semifinal game, that type of, NFC, AFC championship game type of deal. That's when you could have it. Or wait.
Yeah.
You have it. So you have it, if you want to keep these Power 4 conferences, you have the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC. You have those before they get into the semifinals, if that makes any sense. I saw the seeding format where it was basically like this part of the bracket is all Big 10, this part of the bracket's all SEC, this part of the bracket's all ACC, part of the bracket is all Big 12, and the game to get in the semifinal, that's going to be the, type of AFC, NFC thing, but with the Power 4 conferences.
Right.
So it would be like the elite.
Yeah.
It would be like the, Elite Eight or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that yet. That's fascinating to think about.
Yeah.
It is like you were saying about the scheduling, that it is a little frustrating that it takes people a while to catch up. So like you guys were saying, they schedule these teams years in advance. So I think what Michigan played East Carolina last year,
Sure.
that's part of their 15-0 is East Carolina. And so Ohio State played what you guys had, Akron and
Western Michigan and Marshall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it is what it is. But now we're and so in the NFL it's a little different because all the teams are roughly equal, or they're a lot closer together in the NFL than they are in college football.
Sure.
But nevertheless, the schedule is what it is, and we got to either go back to the regional football, and like Peter, what you were saying, I grew up in the 80s and it was always regional. I remember talking to Justin over at the Nebraska channel.
Sure.
And we had done, so Mac and I did last year, the year before, we did a video on Matt Rule coming into Nebraska, and we were doing our freshman class videos. So the new coaches that were coming in. And so I did some research on Nebraska, and I did not realize that Nebraska from, I think, 1960 to 1990 was just crushing college football. I mean, they were the powerhouse team.
Mm-hmm.
I knew nothing about it because when I was a kid, you were worried about the Big Ten. I mean, the only time I ever saw teams play outside of the Big Ten was when Michigan or Ohio State went to a bowl game.
Sure.
And that was it. So, and I love that. And I remember Bo Schembechler had said, somewhere late 70s, that and people have made fun of him. Obviously, Bo had a terrible bowl record, and so he once said that he would rather beat up the guys in his own backyard than the guys on the other side of the country. So that kind of in my formative years, that stuck in my head with, that makes sense. Regional football. So we play the guys in our own backyard. We play our neighborhood. You want to rule the neighborhood. You want to be king of the hill in your neighborhood. Doesn't matter what they're doing, 1,000 miles away. But here we are. College football is no longer a regional sport, and we have to deal with that.
Yeah. And
I'll go ahead.
If you look at it, the reason why I'm talking about a pro format is because we're pretty much all there. Let's be honest. These college football playoffs, they're pros trying to run out their eligibility while getting paid to do it before they can actually make the big money. So it's kind of like we're pretty much there. And here's the other thing. And the title is college football dead. I personally think that it is kind of dead. After this regular season, I'm pretty sure we saw the most ever players in the portal, and they're it's not even okay, I want to go to a different school. It's called the free agency market. I'm going to test the free agency market, and there's tampering. I mean, my God, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate getting $1 million, 1.5 million, and then Jeremiah Smith gets 4 million just to get into the portal.
That's disgusting.
That's ridiculous. And it's just
and why doesn't he leak who texted in that too?
Oh my gosh, seriously,
he would get them. Yeah, expose them, get them in trouble. Why not?
He got nothing to lose.
That's the brand protection, though. If he does that, he does have something to lose, though, because he puts himself in jeopardy of future work.
He does come across as an immature.
As a backstabber. Can you trust him? And that's just that does not look good in those situations.
Don't do something illegal, and then maybe you won't get backstabbed.
I know. I hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm already okay. He's already getting an NIL package at Ohio State, right? So, if somebody from if Steve Sarkisian texted him and said, "Look, dude, I'll give you $4 million getting transfer will come to Texas," I'd be like, "No, I've got enough." Also, hey, NCAA. Like, and then you've just knocked out Texas from the postseason and made it that much easier to get another natty.
Eliminating opponents.
We all know who sent him that text, and it rhymes with Mill Mipe, Phil Knight. I mean, come on, you guys. Like, think about it, dude. Phil Knight is like a multi billionaire, never ending money. He's pretty much pulling a Bill Gates. Bill Gates donating all his money to science before he dies. Phil Knight is donating all his money to Oregon football before he dies. So, that's the type of thing that's happening. So,
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised it was them. Like, but like college football, it's at an all-time low. I mean, like, and it's trickling down to like other sports. You guys, how Miami Hurricanes, they went on that run in the NCAA tournament for basketball. Like, literally, the coach retired after like a lot of players came to him. He said, "Hey, I'm getting in the portal. I need more money."
Yeah.
He's like, I'm done. I can't take this. I can't compete with it. And that's another reason why like Nick Saban retired. Like, he literally had like players coming to his desk after the Rose Bowl saying, "Hey, like, I want this, this, and this." Yeah. And it was kind of like, so, I mean, this is where the sport was heading now. If the NCAA, well, actually, no, they don't have any power. I don't know. There needs to be some type of regulation, some type of like salary cap.
Yeah,
there it is. Another pro term, salary cap.
Yeah.
That's what PJ Fleck was saying. What, last year, I think that because Minnesota is not a destination school like your Michigans, Ohio States, and Alabamas, that he's pulling in 3 stars. He's coaching them up, and then they get to their junior, senior year, and one of our schools offers them $1 million, and off they go. So Minnesota ends up being a feeder school for all of the other schools.
Oh yeah, definitely. But all right. So you guys ready for so Jim Knowles.
Jim Knowles,
man.
Real quick, I got something that you guys are gonna love. All right. So like, especially if we're gonna talk about Jim Knowles here. So have you guys heard of the Twitter account Swinky Wolverine?
I see it all the time on Facebook. Actually, he is very snarky.
Doesn't he have a Penn State sucks hat? I mean, Ohio State sucks hat on.
Yeah. So he did that picture of Jim Knowles and he superimposed Ohio State sucks on the hat, and he had the caption, "Jim Knowles finally looks happy." Athlon Sports picked up the photo and thought that it was real and ran an actual story saying Jim Knowles wears an Ohio State sucks hat.
Bitter.
So in case you were wondering if Athlon Sports can be trusted as a news source, no, they're morons.
Forget about it. They fell for it.
See, that's what I'm talking about, man. It's all about the clicks. What can get me clicks?
Yep.
Oh, hey, that'll save me $15 in June then.
Yeah, don't buy their preview mag.
Yeah.
All right. So the big thing was like, Ohio State was celebrating their national championship on Sunday. Literally, like, everyone's like, "Where's Jim Knowles?" And literally, like an hour or two later, it's announced that he's going to be Penn State's next defensive coordinator. Now, after that, a lot of there's a lot of murmurs that Jim Knowles did not take the meeting well after the Oregon game, and even like the Nebraska game, and so he didn't like being told fix it. And so that's why he skated after. Got it. So the thing is, can he really be credited for the defensive turnaround? Because before the meeting, go back to 2022, Michigan burned Ohio's Jim Knowles defense. Georgia didn't in the playoffs. 2023, Michigan did as well. And then Oregon did as well. Then all of a sudden, like after like literally what I don't know what you guys are watching with Jim Knowles' defense, but what I was watching is, I have corners who can cover well. I'm gonna have my edges stay home just in case the quarterback decides to take out, and take off, and it didn't work, and they got absolutely burned for it. Then all of a sudden, like, Jack Sawyer and JGT saying they're overrated. All of a sudden, they move up to first round pretty much first rounders, like high second round in the matter of like 4 or 5 games. Like, make it make sense.
The one stark example is we had 0 sacks in that first game versus Oregon. There's a come to Jesus meeting with Ryan Day and Jim Knowles, and this in the rematch we had literally 8 sacks on Dylan Gabriel. It's like a completely different defense was put on the field.
I mean, that's something I noticed after the Michigan game. I know we've talked about like Michigan lit a fire under Ohio State, but yeah, from what I saw in the regular season to the playoffs, Ohio State was a completely different team. Mm-hmm. And again, so you can take this for what it's worth, but I felt like during the regular season, obviously Ohio State was much better than Michigan, but it didn't seem like Ohio State was playing as well as they had the previous couple of years. They were not dominating, by 3 and 4 scores like they did, a couple of years ago.
Sure.
And then obviously, they go 13-10 against Michigan, and then they just obliterate everybody in the playoffs. It was a completely different team. Yeah. And I thought I read somewhere that somebody was speculating that Ryan Day took back play calling from Jim Knowles. Is that?
No, if he was taking play calling, it would have been over the offense. But I don't think that's true.
So funny that you bring that up. I was actually, I read this, gosh, I forgot what it was, but it was from the sports analyst who was basically saying the turning point of just the complete, demolition of anyone who stood in the way of Ohio State in the playoffs was when they went on the field for the Tennessee-Ohio State game. They saw the sea of orange, they saw them chanting England North, and that was just like the turning point. Like, hey, this enough is enough. Let's get it.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, that's I firmly believe that happened. But also, wasn't it that Jim Knowles, I can't remember where I read this, but like Jim Knowles and Ryan Day ended up having a meeting after the Oregon game, and Jim Knowles had basically, I don't want to say demanded, but the end result of that meeting was that Jim Knowles was going to take back more control of the defense, and that it was who is the
but from who?
Larry Johnson.
The defensive line coach.
The defensive line coach. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, because they were putting against early in the season.
Yeah. Here's the thing about that, you guys. Like, all I notice is before Jim Knowles, the edges were let loose. I mean, look at like the Bosa brothers, the let's see,
Young, Sam Hubbard,
just all of them. They were let loose. They were getting all these sacks. They were doing stunts and blitzes. Then all of a sudden, Jim Knowles' defense is really safety driven, very secondary driven, linebacker driven. Just for the points that I gave, like he wants his corners to cover. And then he wants his, edges and defensive linemen to stay home. So it's just like, okay, their wide receivers are going to be locked up. The quarterback's going to have no choice to run. The line and the edges are going to be staying home. They're going to be able to get that. And just like, how did that work out? And the thing that made me so mad about that defense in 2022 against Georgia is when they played man and they weren't even good enough to play man. I mean, J.K. Johnson, Cam Johnson. I forgot who was on that secondary that year. That's how, just terrible.
I don't understand in the year of the RPO, the spread, these high flying offenses. Why does anyone play man defense? I mean, just play defense the way Michigan does. Everybody should do it. It's great. You let everybody go all the way down the field, get to the 10-yard line, and kick a field goal. Like, we've won a lot of games doing that. We give up a lot of field goals, but we've won a lot of games doing it. So,
well, yeah, they've definitely put the blueprint out there for stopping Ohio State, and the Buckeyes have to really crack that code and crack Wink Martindale's genie there, because I can't believe they only scored 10 points and then go off and drop bombs on everybody in the playoffs. Like, it's a little infuriating. Not gonna front.
I mean, I'll say this about the Ohio State game. Like, I was a little bit more convinced that Ohio State lost it as opposed to Michigan winning it after when it actually happened. But then Michigan's defensive showing against Alabama in the ReliaQuest Bowl, that was like, okay, maybe Michigan's defense or Wink Martindale actually did scheme up something in a way that, like, Will Howard was having so much trouble seeing his options. He wasn't seeing the field during that game. And I think you got to give a lot of credit to Wink Martindale for that. But I still think there was just a teensy bit of pride going on with Ryan Day in the play calling, because they should never have been running between the tackles against Michigan. You just can't do that.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I'm not a believer in Jalen Milroe at all, and I
That's
thought
fair.
he was going to, do some damage to that Michigan defense, and then Michigan backs up that performance with another superstar performance, and I'm like, wait a second, maybe this dude has turned a corner. So it'd be really interesting to see how the defense performs next year with a bunch of new, with your stars gone. I might say maybe. I mean, I think Stewart is back, but a lot of the big name players,
Josiah Stewart,
and Johnson gone.
Isn't he going to the pros? Josiah Stewart.
I thought Josiah Stewart was coming back.
Yeah, I thought I read Josiah Stewart's coming back. Yeah.
Wow.
I know Rod Moore's coming back.
Yeah, I'm not pleased about that.
Sure, first rounder.
And I'm really not pleased about Rod Moore coming back. What a selfless dude, man. I like him in that sense that he wants to continue to play for Michigan.
Yeah.
But I thought we had dodged a bullet with not having to face him this year, and then he'll just be off to the league. But he's come back for another year. Salute. He must love Ann Arbor. He's probably getting a master's degree, and he'll be set for life.
Oh, yeah.
As someone who has a master's degree, that doesn't get you set for life.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
I'd far prefer being an NFL player.
Yeah.
Nice.
More money, less knees.
Yeah, that's fair. And my knees are already trash as it is from all the sports I played growing up. So, whatever. I'm not losing anything.
We do kind of debate, though. I think Mac and I talked about this a little bit as far as if for that ReliaQuest Bowl game against Alabama, how much that first quarter of rain changed that game. And I don't know if Alabama just wasn't used to the rain, but I mean, Michigan was destroying them in the rain.
Yes.
Which gave them the opportunity to get all those points up front. So then when the skies cleared, they were far enough ahead that all they had to do was hold on.
True, that is a theory too.
I watched the whole game in my Big Ten T-shirt, because that day I was, cheering for the Big Ten, and it was just like one giant slip and slide, and I'm pretty sure, dude, Alabama had like 4 fumbles within one quarter.
Oh yeah,
and, Michigan
too. They had the wrong cleats on.
Yeah, they
changed their cleats after the second quarter, or somewhere mid-second quarter, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the turning point in that game. Like when you have a freshman like Ryan Williams frustrated over the quarterback, like that was just like, okay, Jalen, it's time to go, man. Like you're not cut to be the Alabama Crimson Tide quarterback.
But now on your thing here with Jim Knowles, though, how do you think he'll do at State?
So here's going to be the eye test for me. And no, it's not when they go play against Ohio State. They play Oregon next season. So we'll see if what happened to Ohio State the first time around happens to Penn State. Now, I will say that if Jim Knowles was responsible for the big turnaround, the full force of Jim Knowles' defense took 3 years. 3 years for it to, come to fruition that, hey, this is a really good defense. But, it's so hard to think that, after what you saw for like 2022, 2023, and here's my theory. Jim Knowles' defense holds up against teams who don't have like these all-star receivers, like kind of like Purdue or Nebraska or Northwestern, or good amount of the teams in the Big Ten. But when you play like teams with like Oregon or even Michigan that one year, or Georgia, and they have competent quarterback play, competent wide receivers, it just you can't not like get pressure on the quarterback and like let Dylan Gabriel and stuff. And it was embarrassing seeing Ohio State's defense get lit up by Stetson Bennett. Freaking Stetson Bennett. I mean, guys was in college for like I know he's not bad, but still, like when Stetson Bennett is lighting up your defense, like for over, like you're making them look like, kind of like a Jared Goff, Detroit Lions, Ben Johnson is the OC type of game.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, like what's going on here? Oh, wait, that's right. You're not trying to get any pressure on the quarterback. So that, to me, that Oregon Penn State game will be the eye test. But so Sarah and I, we will be at that Penn State Ohio State game.
Heck yeah.
Just got tickets
Nice.
for that. So really
That's
looking
awesome.
forward to that. Little nice reading for Jim Knowles.
Ooh, that's gonna be fun.
The Michigan Ohio State game's in Ann Arbor this year. We should all get together for that. Go
I'm
tailgate or something.
Highly considering doing something like that. That'd be great, man. That'd be awesome.
When do before I get back to what I was saying, but when do tickets, like, I know that the season ticket holders have put that on StubHub and Game Time and stuff, but as I remember, like there were a lot more tickets available than what they are. Like, when do general admission tickets go on sale for the games?
No idea.
Because around this time, there was like a good amount of tickets on there. They're at a reasonable price. Like literally this time around, like a Michigan Ohio State game was like $270, and I'm like, that's like a legit price. Like you got to get on that now, type of thing.
Right,
Man, I'd never be allowed to spend that kind of money on tickets.
Well, I got
my wife would kill me.
What?
She would. She'd be like, "Why would you do that? You've got student loans. Like, don't you want to buy me a house? That kind of stuff." No, I'm just kidding. I say those things.
Yeah, what's the latest? Have you guys heard on Chip Kelly? So you got to.
Sure.
Did he ever get any interviews, or was he just being talked about?
I heard Texans OC. Offensive coordinator. That was a big one. The Texans offensive coordinator. But other than that, it's just like, I think after you win a national your team wins a national championship, I think like even Justin Fry's being looked at the NFL. Freaking Justin Fry, man. Like, but that's
his Swiss cheese O-lines.
That's hey, you know what? He pulled it together.
Somehow, some way.
Put them in the right
That's true. Yeah,
somehow,
he
some way,
for the
pulled it together. Maybe that's why it's being looked at. But and I saw you guys' video of like if Chip Kelly goes as Ryan Day go. I think that
theory, yeah.
I think that the only head coaching position left in the NFL is the Saints. I think the most ideal place was when I was talking about Jerry Jones waltzing into the Woody on the day after national championship game, offering him a Brian Day blank check. And there was also the Bears, but those two teams were the most ideal. The Jets hired Aaron Glenn. The Raiders hired Pete Carroll. So I highly doubt he's gonna go to the I highly doubt he's going to go to the Saints. Like that's just the franchise you don't want to touch right now.
Steve Dace actually made the same prediction that if Ohio State wins a national championship, he thought that Ryan Day might move on to the NFL. And he does the show with Mark Rogers.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the team, but he knows Ryan Day is friends with one of those teams. And I thought it was St. Louis, but now I'm not sure. That doesn't make sense though. But he's friends with them, and so that it was almost like the guy is maybe holding the spot for him. But
interesting.
Yeah, it would be interesting. But my thought was that if Jim Knowles is going and Chip Kelly is going to go, then that probably means that Ryan Day is just holding out for them to go so that he can leave. Which I thought was actually, if it works out that way, good on Ryan Day for letting those guys get to their places first, just to make sure that everything's kosher for them before he takes off. But I almost, like we were talking about the fan bases earlier, I feel like his wife was really upset because of the death threats from obviously the fringe side of the fan base, because some of those were in person to their kids at school.
Right.
I was surprised, but then I just read an article, there was an interview. Ryan Day said that he wants to win multiple national championships at Ohio State. So, and I guess he convinced his wife somehow. So it sounds like he's staying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
got
you
some
know
thick
that was
skin.
just that goes back to what we're talking about the rivalry being at its all time unhealthy point. Like
Right.
you go to a man's wife, message her on whatever social media app, and you tell her that, hey, your husband better follow in his father's footsteps and go kill himself. Like that's what was said.
Yeah, that's
Like
awful.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but here's the thing: there's always going to be that loony part of the fan base, and every
Right.
single fan
Thank
base. Because, for example, have you guys ever seen the 30 for 30 Roll Tide War Eagle?
No.
Very interesting one.
There was a Alabama fan who, it was 2011 when Cam Newton, led the comeback against Alabama. An Alabama fan called into a radio show and said, "Yeah, man," like he was really pissed. He said, "Yeah, you know, those trees that they all celebrate to throw the toilet paper on.
Yeah.
Oh
He
yeah.
poisoned
Too much
them."
corner.
And when he called, like the authorities were alerted, and that dude has spent like 5 years in prison because it was like a highly toxic chemical that could have killed like a lot of people, like over time. Like,
That sounds familiar. I
Jeez.
think I did hear about that. Yeah.
Look that story up
Right.
because it's a legit story.
Yeah.
What? Like, why do that though? Like, what does it matter?
And it's not like
Yeah.
he had lost money. He was just mad that Auburn cheated and won the national title, Paul.
But you guys live around here, so I'm sure you've heard on sports radio every time, the Lions lose, those call-in shows get dozens of people calling in and tell them, fire everybody.
That's when wow, yeah, the Detroit and greater Metro Detroit area are on fire after Lions losses. It is
yeah.
quite comical
Yeah.
at times.
and
I
here's
think
why. Oh, sorry, go on.
I just want to put this in here too. I think the marriage between betting and sports, as they get in bed with each other even more, is just going to fuel that because when you get drinking and a large loss of money like involved in the same situation and just sports irrationality, like that's a pretty toxic combo. Like for me at 36, I can't imagine a sports loss throwing me into like a fit that I'm going to go DM somebody or DM players or even or anything like that. But but some people, man, they take it that far because they're in that drunken stupor. They lost all their money, their life savings. I mean, if I was a betting man, I would have put a lot of money on Ohio State, Michigan this year. I was so confident.
Yep.
But I'm not a betting man, and man, I'm thankful I'm not because that would have been a huge loss.
I was all set that Saturday, the Ohio State game. I think I told Mac this, that I was going to watch the first half of the game just because I'm a fan. I gotta do something, and I figured I'll just watch the first half of the game, see what happens, and then turn it off. I have the rest of my afternoon because my grandkids were coming over, and it's 10-10 at the half, and I'm like,
dude,
what is happening? And then obviously they win, and so I'm like glued to it now. But yeah, that was incredible. I fully expected Ohio State to just walk in and ground him into the turf.
See, that's like the opposite of me during the playoffs. Actually, I had no expectations for Ohio State going to these playoffs. That's what made the victories a lot more sweet. But I remember the Texas Ohio State game when Texas tied it up. I said to Sarah, I'm like, I can't do it. All the pain and of Ryan Day blowing leads and losing in the end, I can't take it. So I went to the other room. I turned on a movie, and then I came out. I watched it at the right time where Jack Sawyer got the. Actually, no. When they scored, went up 21-14. I was like, okay, I got to watch this. Are they gonna make the stop? And Jack Sawyer made the strip sack, and I was like yelling high pitch at the TV. And like, I was surprised that we did not get a noise complaint. I'm serious. Like, you would have thought that someone was like getting like killed in the apartment.
Yeah, I think you must have said that story in one of your other videos. I remember you talking about how you had to leave the room.
Yeah, it was it was actually when we did the national championship preview on your guys' show. The celebration.
Yeah.
But
I thought for sure. So this is funny because I was watching the national championship game, and at some point, so we got to the end, and the play I saw was I thought it was Jeremiah Smith coming around, knocks the ball out, goes back for the 85-yard touchdown.
Jack Sawyer.
And I was telling somebody about this on a call, and they just stared at me. And I'm like, what did I say wrong? Turns out that was the Texas game, not the Notre Dame game. And what I think happened, is that I wasn't paying a lot of attention to the national championship game, but I looked up like at the end, and they must have shown a replay of that from the Texas game. And I just it got stuck in my head that was happening right then. And so I thought it was Notre Dame that they were playing at that point. But it was bizarre because then they told me that it was the Texas game. And so I actually had to go look it up because I was absolutely convinced that was the last play of the national
wrong.
Why do we have a football channel, dude? We don't pay attention.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I was actually I remember you guys did a live during the Oregon Ohio State game. I was rewatching that. Your guys' reactions are priceless. Like Mac, you were just like, oh, they scored again. And like, oh my god, 34-0. Like, what's
hey, guess
going
what?
on?
Ohio State scored again.
Yeah, I think they're still scoring actually.
Yeah. The funniest thing was Chris Fowler's his commentary during the Travion Henderson. He's like, oh, and what got worse is getting much more worse for Oregon as Travion Henderson waltzes in the end zone, and then he said it's a Crimson Tide Avalanche. He said the Crimson Avalanche. I'm like, what?
No, we're the Scarlet, not Crimson.
You should have said a Scarlet Avalanche, dude.
Yeah. Well, he tried. He's probably tired.
We all know what conference he won in that Rose Bowl.
Oh yeah, that's it. I mean, they Don't get me started on SEC bias from ESPN because I will go.
You mean the ESECPN?
Yeah,
I can speak on that for a while too.
The S being a dollar sign.
Yeah.
I remember on our show, you guys, and then Garrison and everybody, I think you all were saying that it's hard to beat a team twice. Yeah. And as Mac and I are watching that Oregon Ohio State game, it was just like, I guess they were right. Wow.
I mean, like if you look at that first game in depth, Ohio State had a lot of like self-inflicted wounds, and like that was like previously Oregon was like what 36-1 in that stadium, really hostile environment. A lot of Ohio State fans who went, said that was the loudest environment they've possibly been in, and like just seeing like how they lost and everything, it was just like, okay, there's like I even called this, like I called in the Big Ten championship that Ohio State is going to get the redemption, but you know what? I'll take the Rose Bowl and
take the Rose
trip
Bowl,
to the national championship over that. But what was hilarious was Chip Kelly's response to the walloping of Oregon. He said, "Hey, like we just wanted to let them know that no 12th man." I think he said like no, like they tried to like no 12th man is going to stop us this time. So no more loopholes. So
yeah, no more accidental slides.
Yeah.
Well, and they made that. Didn't they make that like a rule now? It's like an actual rule, like you can't do that or something.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they did.
Yep.
That's lame. NCAA mommy coming in just to clean up the game and maintain control.
Not a fan.
Yeah. But all right. Next, we're going to talk about Ohio State and Michigan ceiling for next season. First off, what do you think? What are your expectations going into, seeing like the recruiting classes, who's coming back for, another year? You guys have your staff. Well, Kirk Campbell's fired. You have Chip Lindsey coming in as the OC. Your expectations at quarterback, seeing like what was offered during the 2024 season. So what are your overall expectations, just the ceiling and the floor for, the Michigan Wolverines?
12-0, Davis Warren is a Heisman front runner.
Oh, baby.
Changed my mind. No,
That's it.
I mean, I will never hate on my boy Davis Warren. I love that guy. But I think so. I've mentioned this before. I don't know what to think about Michigan in 2025 because like they've got all of these really good players coming in. They've got really good players that are staying, that are coming back from last year's team. I mean, believe it or not, there were actually a lot of really good players on last year's team. But so the thing is that they're going to be really young, right? So maybe they don't do so well. But then you look at their schedule and they've got Oklahoma, okay. Washington, maybe, Ohio State. Well, they haven't seemed to have an issue with them lately. So, all right. If this Michigan team were like a year older, I'd be like 12-0, dude. And I'd, straight face, I'd totally mean it. At this point, I'm thinking like 10-2, 11-1 is kind of my expectation. I don't really know who the 2 losses would be or the 1 loss would be. I know a lot of people are saying that the Oklahoma game is kind of almost a guaranteed loss. I don't really understand that. I don't think Oklahoma's very good, and I don't think that they're going to be very good this year either, especially with everything that Michigan's defense is bringing back. So I honestly, I would personally, I'd probably call 10-2. I wouldn't be shocked by 11-1, and I honestly wouldn't be shocked by 12-0 either.
Wow.
Here's the thing, you guys. And you know what? Peter and I were so confident about Sharon Moore's first season that we made a sign. We placed it at his parking spot. We did. We placed it at his parking spot. You're going 8. We gave him some credit. We said, 9. We said 9-3. He goes 8-5. Okay. So I just, and you know what? I will give him the roses if he proves me wrong. I don't automatically give coach a coordination, just this automatic coordination. Didn't do that with Ryan Day. There was a lot of skepticism with Ryan Day. Like, okay, like, is he another Larry Coker who gets this high powered team and just runs them in the ground, or is he going to be Lincoln Riley who takes an already built up program to keeps them the same or higher heights. So as of right now, I'm in a show me type of mode with Sharon Moore, and that's just me being honest. But yeah, I still think that he's not the guy, but that's just not me. That's just me.
Whoa, the fighting words for me,
dude. I'm telling you, I still don't think he's. I don't think he's the guy. I don't.
I think it was just the offensive coordinator was an issue. I think Sharon Moore absolutely is the guy.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you feeling entering 2025?
I think Sharon Moore. I'm going to disagree with Rob on that one. I think Sharon Moore is the guy. My first thought is that Michigan should be the ceiling for Michigan this year should be 9-3, or I'm sorry, the floor should be 9-3. The ceiling should be 12-0. Part of what I'm basing that on. So the Phil Steele in his magazine last year actually had Michigan going to the playoffs, but losing in the first round. So they didn't get there. Obviously they took a much bigger step backward than we thought they would.
Sure.
But the way the season ended with the win over Ohio State, the win over Alabama, they got that figured out. They just need the offense. I honestly think they had one of the top 5 defenses in the country this year, based on how they were able to stop Ohio State and Alabama. So if that stays in place, they've got guys returning. They've got a great recruiting class coming in. Sharon Moore seems to have things figured out to some extent. So I think it's reasonable to think that the floor should be 9-3, the ceiling should be 12-0 for the regular season. Getting into the playoffs is a whole nother animal. I could see them getting into the playoffs this year and losing first round. I'm okay with that. I kind of like to see things built up. I would like to see Michigan get to the playoffs this year. Next year, win a couple more games in the playoffs, and then maybe the year after that have a shot at the title. But yeah, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be able to do that. Given that, the other thing that Phil Steele was saying is that Michigan had one of the youngest teams in the CFB. So, and Ohio State actually had one of the most experienced teams. So Ohio State then I think actually might take a slight step back, or at least they might be. I can almost see Michigan and Ohio State being equal teams this year. But also knowing that Ohio State is one of the most consistent teams, or the most consistent team in college football, a step back for Ohio State might be that they get to the quarterfinals this year. So.
Yeah, and here's my take on the Ohio State taking a step back. It's kind of like when Jim Tressel was fired, the sky was falling. Luke Fickell took over, and it was just like, okay, like what is the state of Ohio State program going to look like for the future? And like we came out of the tattoo Kate, like going in a way better direction. Now Jim Tressel is my favorite coach. Really sad that he deleted those emails, got fired. Just Peter and I, we went to one of his speaking engagements in Ohio, a couple summers ago, and just really stand-up guy, just made a mistake. But it's kind of like if they survived that type of scandal with a postseason ban, scholarship reduction stuff, they ended up in a better spot. Like it's just like, how can you like even look at this program taking like this big drop off that a lot of people more than likely want to see? So it's I don't know. What I learned from a young age being an Ohio State fan is these boosters care a lot about this program to just like let it dip like that.
Oh yeah, I don't think it wouldn't be a fall off. Not like Jim Tressel getting fired, because obviously you'll have continuity with Ryan Day, and then do they have a new DC yet?
Not yet. We haven't named one yet. The search is still continuing.
So whoever comes in for that, I'm sure there'll be continuity as far as the bringing up one of the assistant coaches, or even Ryan Day himself will be able to help with that. But the only fall off I would see is that they're losing. You guys losing like 11 starters?
8 alone on defense.
8 on defense, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a younger team coming in. So there's just that trying to pick that back up again. But again, fall off in this case, like I said, for Ohio State, a fall off might be they just don't make it to the national championship, but they do make it to the quarterfinals kind of thing. I mean, if that's a fall off, Michigan would love to have that 2 years in a row. So
I can't remember. Isaiah Hull was talking about somebody's prediction for, I think somebody from ESPN, I think it was their prediction for Michigan this next season. And it was that not only like Michigan was actually going to finish like 11-1. I think the loss was to Oklahoma. Again, I don't quite understand it, but sure, we'll go with it. But they were going to finish 11-1, and then they were going to end up beating Ohio State in the quarterfinals in the playoff. So that would be their 5th and 6th straight win over Ohio State. And I'm kind of like, whoa, all right. Like somebody was actually thinking that.
Wouldn't it be interesting? Wouldn't it be interesting if the rivalry transitions, so the regular season game doesn't matter as much, but let's say Ohio State and Michigan start making it to the playoffs every year, and have the rivalry game be one of the playoff games every year, every other year, something like that.
That would feed families forever, dude.
Oh yeah.
Ratings looking at the charts.
I mean, but the regular season version of the rivalry already doesn't matter as much. I mean, we saw that even just this year with Ohio State being allowed to go. But
exactly.
Yeah. Which again, no hate. You guys won it. That's cool. I'm happy for you. I'm just saying you didn't deserve to be there.
I think I think that we both called that as soon as the 12-team playoff expanded. We both made videos that the game would be a little less intense, because if you look at it, ever since like the Land Before Time, that the winner of that game, it determines who gets to go to the Big Ten championship. And
Yeah, exactly.
you know, in
wins
the
the-
BC
yeah.
wins the national and goes to the national championship in the BCS era. And then, you know, for the last like 3 years, like ever since the college football playoff, you know, it made or break Ohio State or Michigan going to the playoffs. Just
Mhm.
like, you know, 2016, that the you know, the controversial the spot game, and you know, Michigan wins that, they go to the Big Ten, they more than likely win the Big Ten championship, they go to the playoffs, but they lost that. And then 2018, all they had to do was beat Ohio State, but they didn't, and then they get they're going to go to the playoffs. But you know, 2021 to 2023, Michigan got the best of Ohio State, and you know, it ruined their chance for the playoffs. So that's no longer on the line. But
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
there could be a chance where, you know, each team meets with 2 losses. There's that possibility. So, you know,
Mhm.
kind of, you know, not so fast.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about, you know, is college football dead? As we get closer to the NFL style, it's now we've got coaches making that calculation. What games can I lose and still get to the playoffs?
Sure.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that was Ryan Day's calculation this year or not, but I mean that's what they can do now. So if they, in the case of Michigan and Ohio State, if they get into that game and they're both undefeated, one of them is going to say, I don't want my guys to get hurt, so we're going to slack off on this game because we're still going to get to the playoffs.
It's going to
Which
take
ruins that game. But if they do play in the playoffs, then we can have our
Sure.
rivalry over there.
we'll know that college football is taking a big turning point if it's week 16 and couple, you know, one loss undefeated teams rest their starters.
Yeah.
We'll know that it's
Beat,
taking a
right?
big
Yeah.
turn, a big turn, because that's
Yeah.
like that's what they do in the NFL, man. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Saquon Barkley had a chance to, you know, break who was it? Eric Dickerson's
Eric
record.
Dickerson's record.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you know, he's like, okay,
Sad him.
I don't want to risk it, so I'm gonna rest. You know, there's other than this record, there's really nothing on the line. So
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Well,
didn't
I
he
wanted-
also say that he wanted the younger kids to play or something like that, give them a chance, or I don't know. His response was actually a lot kind
what
of
their
nice.
tryout for the free
pretty
agency
classy.
market.
Yeah. Yeah, that.
Well, I wanted to comment on Michigan's schedule too, and just what I think what I think they're capable of this upcoming year. Obviously, got a lot more roster studying to do and whatnot, but I think the schedule sets up really favorably for the Wolverines. I think Oklahoma is not at their peak, as you discussed, Mac. I mean, they're not what they were in the 2000s or even the early 2010s. And
Right.
I think even traveling to Norman, I think that should be okay. I think you enter the game at 10-1. I do have you losing one game, and it's probably to USC, even though USC is not at their peak. It's just because that's a cross
road
country
game.
travel that's
Yeah.
hard to maintain. I think even though USC is not great right now, I still think they might give Michigan a loss
Yeah.
on the ledger there. And so you enter the game at 10-1 with really everything to play for, with the conference championships still being in place at this point. And my confidence has wavered in that game now, especially it being in Ann Arbor. I would certainly hesitate to pick a win at this point in the off season. And so, you know, I think a ceiling would be 11-1, and I really don't see you doing worse than 10-2 with the schedule that you have. You don't play Oregon. I don't think you play Penn State either.
No,
I think your
we
Big
don't.
Ten schedule sets up so great to
Yeah,
make a
it's-
run to Indy, to make a potential appearance in Indy if you can get past Ohio State again for a 5th straight year.
Yeah, it's a complete flip from last year. I think last year we had one of the
Sure.
like top 10 strength of schedules, and this year I think we're down in the bottom 10 or something.
Yeah.
Sure. So
So
I think it really sets up for Sharon to have a bounce back year, and perhaps even be better record wise than perhaps maybe the actual roster is, because like you said, they're building towards a roster in 2026 with a sophomore Bryce Underwood. That could be a scary team right there, and they get Oklahoma at home that year.
That's
right.
going to be the interesting thing about it is, like, however well Michigan does in 2025, I fully expect them to do even better in 26 and then even better than that in 27. So there's actually a really solid, in my mind anyway, I'm just kind of thinking about this, like, and I understand transitive property, can't do that kind of thing. Screw you, Justin. But
He's not even here.
He's not even here. Well, that's the best time to attack him because he can't defend
Flip it and
himself.
send it to him.
Yeah. But like, I fully expect that, you know, Michigan coming into this year with them, with the amount of talent that they're going to have on the team, it's going to be raw. That's fine. They need to get coached up. But just with what you're saying with the schedule, I still think 10 or 11 wins is absolutely reasonable. But then think about like next season, that team's going to be even better. So again, 11, maybe 12 wins. And then the following season after that, I fully expect Michigan to win another national title within the next 3 to 4 years. And I bet you the only reason Bryce Underwood doesn't go pro after his junior year is if Michigan doesn't win the national title his junior year. If Michigan doesn't win the title, what is that, 27 then? If Michigan doesn't win, so if Michigan doesn't win the title in 27, Bryce Underwood will come back for his senior year and try again in 28.
You really think so, man?
Mac is really high on the Jerome Moore train.
Like, dude.
No, the reason is though,
might as well be though.
You can't, in my mind, you can't crap on Sharon Moore because he's not. Sorry, maybe that's too strong. You can't have fair criticisms of Sharon Moore. Well, no, you can have fair criticisms. You can't have criticisms of Sharon Moore in general.
We'll get there. We'll
get there. I know the English language. We're good. You can't criticize him because he was a part of the 21, 22, 23 teams. And those three teams obviously were very good. And they were very good on offense, despite the fact that it wasn't, you know, the biggest and flashiest. Under Sharon Moore, it was consistent. And it held on to the ball for a very long time. And it really was that boa constrictor that just squeezed the life out of defenses. And no one was really able to keep up with it. You know, I guess except for Georgia and apparently TCU, but whatever, we'll move past that. But point being is that Sharon Moore was a part of building that offense that's heavily reliant on the run. It's dominant in the trenches and has a quarterback that, when called upon, is consistent in the passing game. 2024, notwithstanding. But that being said, it was that running game that beat Ohio State. It was the running game that beat Alabama. Well, and the defense. But it was the running game and defense that beat those two teams at the end of the season, and that's with a depleted roster. Think of what he can do with a roster that's actually talented, especially on offense.
Bring him some fair points.
Yeah. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, I did. And here's the thing: I'm not gonna roll over and just say, you know, this is gonna be the greatest coach ever. I'm in still prove to me mode. Just like, you know what? I was in prove to me mode with Ryan Day throughout the playoffs. And, you know, he proved it. So, you know what? What?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. So, you know, it's just like, again, I'm not going to give this automatic like coordination. Like, yeah, you know, this coach is the guy or this coach is the guy. Like, you know, it's, you know, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how Michigan does, you know, without, you know, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, you know, Will Johnson's gone. You said Josiah Stewart's coming back?
He's coming back.
Sure,
yeah.
I'm almost, I'm confident.
That's huge. He's a for sure first rounder. I mean, I know you have who is it? Derek, is it Moore?
Derek Moore.
Yeah,
Derek Moore, TJ Guy. So, you know, the defense is it's gonna look good. You know, it's just gonna be interesting. You know, are they gonna break Bryce Underwood in, or are they gonna, you know, kind of, you know, shelf him? It would be hard to see that they shelf him and just like, okay, let him go out there and make some mistakes. You know, we'll be a lot better next season. But, you know, and here's the thing, Oklahoma's trash. Like, how can you say that, you know, that just automatically like Michigan doesn't have a chance? Like, Oklahoma's they're trash. Like, you know, it's funny because Oklahoma had this high-powered offense that did really good things for them, and now they hired a defensive-minded coach who just like seems like can't really get anything going on offense. But it's just I don't know. But
Oh,
I'd have to say the ceiling for Michigan, and this is a tough one. I have like 1, 2 losses for the ceiling, the floor, 3 losses.
Mhm.
So
I really do truly see them bouncing back next year, and I think 2026 is really going to tell a lot about how good was the actual Michigan team, or was it the benefit of a nice schedule and avoiding some dominant teams. That's where I'm going to learn a lot, because I really do think Michigan does bounce back this season, but I don't know if it'll be because they're such a dominant team. But I definitely understand the optimism coming from your end and wanting to build hope for the future. And man, how could you not, after beating Ohio State and Bama Blue Bloods back to back to wrap up the season? That really ticks me off. But you guys did it, so
That's one of my favorite stat now is that Kalen DeBoer. No, wait a minute. Yeah, Kalen DeBoer is the first coach to lose to Michigan twice in the same year with 2 different teams.
Oh my goodness, that's so good.
Yeah. Also, real quick, we were totally wrong. Josiah Stewart's going to the NFL.
Oh well, that
Stewart's gone.
I mean,
Stewart is gone. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I was shocked when you guys said that because he's going to
Really?
be a first rounder.
Yeah. I kept thinking about it, and I was like, I'm pretty sure he's staying, but I just looked at it. So I think maybe I was thinking of Rod Moore, but I knew Rod Moore was coming back anyway. So
yeah. Justice Haynes is going to look is good.
Yeah.
Some of the transfers in for defense, Damon Payne, Trey Boyles, Trey Williams, they're kind of just their names right now. We really don't know what they're capable of. But Justice Haynes, you've seen what he can do. I mean, I looked at Damon Payne stats, like 1 sack, 4 tackles over like 3 seasons or so. Trey Boyles didn't really see the field, but he's a 5-star linebacker, so we'll see what happens with that. And Trey, who's it? Trey Williams from Clemson.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I saw his tape. He looks pretty good. But also that wide receiver from Indiana, was he injured this season, or did he just not fit Signetti's game plan and stuff?
I want to say it was a little bit of both, but I think he was injured this year.
Yeah. So, right now, a good amount of those transfers besides Haynes, they're just names right now. So we'll see how they do.
Yeah,
there's a Trey Williams from Texas A&M. Is that the one?
No, this dude transferred in from Clemson.
Okay.
He was a defensive tackle.
I'm sorry. Yeah, this guy, he's in the NFL already. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Did he different Trey?
Different Trey.
Yeah, Trey. Okay, so Trey Williams.
His name's not even Trey. I don't know.
That's the kind of analysis you can come to expect on this channel.
Yeah.
No, our channel. You guys are supposed to be better than that.
All right. Ohio State's ceiling floor. And my take is not biased at all, you guys. I promise.
Sure.
I'll keep it realistic, because that's the type of takes you're gonna get on Buckeyes Battle Cry. So I know that they're losing a lot, but I feel like I made videos about this before the 2024 season. I said these are the changes that Ryan Day needs to make in order to truly find himself as a head coach. And now I get it. He lost to Michigan for the 4th year in a row. A big, ugly, unexpected loss. But I feel like at the end of the day, he found himself as a head coach and his confidence as an all-time high. I think going forward, he's not going to second guess himself anymore. Not too worried about the Jim Knowles hired. People are like, Rob, you're crazy for saying that, because look at what Jim Knowles did. But Ryan Day is the one who went out and got Jim Knowles. I mean, he went out and got the Oregon running back coach. Look what happened. I mean, 2 1,000-yard backs. I mean, that's never happened in, Ohio State history. And just like I have complete confidence in Ryan Day. Maybe not against Michigan right now, but complete confidence in terms of, the bigger picture, being able to compete on the national stage. And with that being said, I think they take an early loss to Texas. But that's where the growing pains, they get, it gets better from there. And I see them, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna call it right now. James Franklin is still the head coach at Penn State.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
buddy.
and Penn State just did the most Penn State thing possible. They didn't even hire the area that needs the most fixing.
needs some most help.
They poured their money into an area that was really freaking good. And that's the most Penn State thing ever. So I
Man.
think that Ohio State gets it done at home against Penn State. And, they go into they go in one loss. But I will say a trap game is against Wisconsin at Camp Randall.
Oh, okay.
They go to Wisconsin this season. So I'm not gonna that's an up in the air for me, because look how much competition they gave Oregon. Oregon's lucky to have gotten out of there with a win. I watched that game. They were extremely lucky.
Yeah.
Like it was probably one of their worst games of the season. So, it's a hostile environment. But
Boise State.
I have them heading into the game with one loss. That early loss, they learn from it, they grow. They once again, this band of brothers find themselves as a team. So and their floor, 2 losses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not realize you guys
Maybe
have
3.
Texas game 1.
Yeah, Arch Manning. That's in Columbus, but for
Yeah.
one reason or another, man, Ohio State does not play their non-conference opponents well in the horseshoe. They always go to their opponents and win on the road and take a win in their home stadium, but can't do it in the horseshoe for some reason. I do actually kind of agree with Rob. I do have Ohio State losing the season opener. Everybody kind of backs off Ohio State a little bit as a serious national title contender. They lost too much. Yada yada yada. New defense. Yada yada yada. And slowly but surely, they climb their way back up those rankings. Although they probably won't drop too far, because Texas is going to be a top 5 team entering the season.
Texas is number 1.
Well, they're looking for a title next year.
I think they should be number. Yeah, definitely top 2 teams for sure. I think Ohio State probably should be around 5. I don't see why everybody's ranking them 1 in the early rankings, but we lose too much. But we get Penn State at home. Wisconsin is a tough game, always a tough game going to Camp Randall. Most likely going to be a night game or a noon game because of Fox Big Noon kickoff. And then of course I think
Purdue now. Come on.
What about the Boilers?
They're the new Purdue.
But yeah, I think both teams enter the game 10-1 actually, and a slot in the Big Ten championship game is on the line again between Ohio State and Michigan.
Well, maybe, possibly not though, because it could be that they just flip flop. Whoever wins the game, just gets the top spot, and then the other one takes number 2, and then they meet the very next week in the Big Ten title game, and then they meet in the quarterfinals of the playoff.
Oh man.
That's what we needed, guys. That's what we needed, was 3 times in 1 year. I can't stand the 12-team playoff, but it sucks because I had so much fun watching it.
You know what I see throughout those 3 games? A lot of burned couches, the city's on fire and just in chaos, and fire this coach, fire that coach, death threat. It's just, it won't be pretty.
I got a pretty epic prediction for Ohio State in 2025, so I'm going to let Dad go first.
I guess I'm right there with you guys. That opener with Texas, they always schedule. I'm surprised Grambling isn't first, because you want that warm up game. So that both Texas and Ohio State are going to be killing each other in that game. That's going to be an interesting one to watch. But honestly, that would be the only one. And then to Michigan. And the reason I'm throwing up Michigan now is because I feel like Michigan has Ohio State's number, and also would Brian Day make the calculation that he doesn't necessarily have to beat Michigan in the regular season? So maybe he can lose if you go into that game 11-1 or 10-1, most likely ranked in the top 5. Do they have to win it? So that's going to be interesting. So yeah, I guess it'd be the same thing. I guess the floor would be 2 losses. Although that would depend on, so if you get 2 losses and then make it to the playoffs, that's another one altogether. But
True.
But if we're just talking regular season, I 2 losses at most.
Yeah.
Because Michigan or Ohio State's just going to roll these other ones. I mean, obviously they're going to roll Grambling, Ohio, Washington. They might give them a little bit of trouble, but not enough. Minnesota, Illinois. I mean, Brett Bielema is out for blood these days, but
Man.
Brett Bielema needs to shut
I
up.
thought it was impressive that they beat South Carolina in bowl season. That was really impressive.
He's got a big mouth for someone who doesn't even play Michigan this upcoming year. That's why he's
really.
talking, probably.
Yep. But I'm not convinced that Wisconsin is going to be all that tough of a game for Ohio State this year. Penn State will be interesting. But then you got Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers. Those will be rollovers in Michigan. So yeah, I honestly, 10-2 is the floor, 12-0 is the ceiling.
I got you.
Yeah.
I can live with that. Yeah.
I got Ohio State going 9-3.
Ooh-wee. I gotta hear this.
Yeah.
All right, so I think you guys are right about Texas. I think Texas is probably going to win the national championship next year, and I'm not entirely happy about it because I was really enjoying the SEC not winning national championships. Even then, like Texas is just kind of like SEC just by like default now, though. Like it's
SEC
not like
plus, right?
Yeah, they're just the add-on. Like whatever, who cares about them? But still, I don't want them to win it. I think that I and I apologize, guys. I think you guys are going to lose to Michigan for the 5th straight year. I'm sorry. It's just Michigan's defense is going to be really good again. So sorry.
Where do you see a 3rd loss on that schedule, though?
So the thing is, like, I wanted to say Penn State. I really wanted to say Penn State because, like, conventional logic says they're a really good team. They should be able to beat Ohio State, right? Yeah, but
They're bringing everybody back.
Coach. They're bringing everybody back. James Franklin's still a coach, guys.
James Franklin's still there.
James Franklin's still a coach, and Andy Kotelnicki, I think, is a decent OC, but like their offense fell apart when they needed them, and maybe Drew L.R. will take a step forward this year. James Franklin's still
worst wide receiver room
quarterbacks never do.
Yeah, exactly. But also James Franklin's still a coach. So you guys are going to beat Penn State. Wisconsin, I don't like the Luke Fickell experiment, or at least the way that it's going. It doesn't seem to be going the right way, and I don't see that getting any better. I mean, they're going to have another new quarterback this year. I don't know. I mean, I understand, if it's a night game, maybe things will get a little bit testy, but I don't know. I think you guys are going to, I think you guys are going to take that game too. I got you losing to Illinois.
To Illinois.
Where's the game at?
Illinois.
It's at Illinois, yeah.
Man.
Ooh, in the windy, cavernous Memorial Stadium.
I'll
I
go look
this.
at their depth chart, man. I'll have to.
Why? I want to hear this one. Why do you think Illinois is going to beat Ohio State?
I think that Brett Bielema's got Illinois on an upward trajectory, and they're not looking bad, and they've got a decent roster coming in. I think Luke Altmaier is going to be a senior, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they went into Happy Valley and almost upset Penn State. And I think that if Illinois had Penn State at home, Illinois would have won that game. I think Ohio State's going to take a slight step back, and it's going to be just enough for Brett Bielema to scheme something up, because he is very good at scheming. He knows what he's doing in terms of scheming up a solid offense to get around a good defense. And with Ohio State bringing in a new DC,
but we don't know
would
who
mean
that
Ohio
DC
State's
is
missing
yet.
the
We don't know
playoffs.
who that is yet.
I know we don't know who that is yet, but you're going to need at least a year or two for his system, whoever it is, for their system to get
I don't know, man.
implemented.
If we get a surprise hire, like kind of like look what Jeff Halfley did with Ohio State, just 1 year, their defense.
Wow.
Like
I mean,
if we
yeah.
get
That
if
is
we,
a bold.
we don't know if we get that type of hire. Like we get a bad hire, we get a good hire, we get a really good
Yeah.
hire.
You're
And
absolutely
Ryan-
right.
and
Yeah.
Ryan Day, I trust. So,
But the game is still at Champaign, and it's still Brett Bielema, and Brett Bielema's bringing in. He's got a really good team this year. They've got a lot of really good talent coming in. So I
They're
think you
building.
guys- yeah, I think you guys are going 9-3 with losses to Texas, Michigan, and
That-
Illinois.
That
Sorry,
would be
sorry.
so remarkable, man. Ohio State has only lost more than 2 regular season games twice since the turn of the
Yeah.
century. That would be quite the shout. If 9-3 comes, 1, I'll be super pissed. But 2, I'm
Sure.
going to give so much respect to Mac on that one if that happens. My goodness.
yeah,
If
man,
it
I
helps
mean,
anything, Rob, if Michigan were in the same position, I would be calling Illinois to win that game too.
all
If
right.
Michigan were going to
Fair
Illinois,
enough.
I'd say Illinois would
Fair
win that
enough.
game too. But
It's not a
Michigan's
bad
going to
shout.
Illinois,
If you're
so-
going to pick, wow, that would be wild. 2 Big Ten conference
Hey,
losses
just think about it this way.
Oh.
Like, do you
for
remember
the second consecutive year.
the 2018 Ohio State Purdue game? Purdue had no business winning that game.
I mean,
And they
real
won
talk,
it
and
almost
Iowa
like a
in 17.
blowout. And Iowa, yeah.
Here's the thing about Urban Meyer.
Sure.
He's
Yeah.
lost games that he's not even supposed to. I mean, even at Florida,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Like the
that's
year they
true.
won the national championship, they lost to Ole Miss. Where did Ole Miss end up that season? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. But they weren't good. I remember that at least.
Yeah. They were
But
not.
yeah. So, and then
That's a good
ceiling
shout.
is 11-1 because I still don't think you're going to beat Michigan.
All right.
Hey.
Fair
Okay.
enough. You guys got 4 in a row. Fair enough. You got
Yeah.
all the momentum going into next season. But
And
remember,
after
it
this
is.
season, it's going to be 6 in a row. So
Not 6, not 7.
actually 7.
Not 8.
It's going to be 7 in a row because we're going to meet at the end of the season. We're going to meet in the title game, and we're going to meet in the playoffs. Boom! There you go.
Yeah,
It's gonna
I
be
don't know
not
if I
with
can
in a row.
handle-
not with a 3-loss season, dude. You could say goodbye to that,
That's
man.
true. Yeah, you guys. Yeah, you're not.
So
Well,
you know what? Do you want
I
to
don't-
do you want to reconsider your prediction just because it seems like you really want that scenario to happen?
I don't. I don't want that scenario. That's the scenario of nightmares. Michigan and Ohio State were only allowed to play 1 time a year. It's in the Bible, probably.
Yeah. I read it.
God said while he was creating the universe, he said, I'm going to create Michigan, and then Satan's going to take care of Ohio State. And and they're only going to play once every year, and that's going to be the ultimate battle of good versus evil.
Hey, you know what? John 3:16. So God so loved the world, he gave it Ohio State University. So.
Ooh.
Okay, all right.
Dang.
See, at least I kept my
That's
blasphemy
adorable.
kind of broad. You just went straight in and
He
said
went
no.
specific with
I'm
the
looking for the
reference and
lightning.
everything.
Looking for the lightning.
That's why I tattooed it on me. No.
There you go. And with
Well,
all
it's
of
been
that,
fun.
we all need
It's-
to go to confession. So
right. I'm gonna go pick up that John chapter 3 real quick after I get off. But it's been fun chopping up some college footballs. We got topics. We have a long off season to go.
yeah.
August is a long ways away, but it's gonna be fun chopping up with you guys occasionally. Hopefully, we can get you on again at some point.
Definitely.
Maybe after the spring game or something like that, and just talk about how the teams looked and whatnot. But once again, before we get off, just share where people can find you, Cliff and Mac, and thanks again for coming on.
I wanted to share one last thing though.
Yeah.
So I've never really been a big fan of Ryan Day. Not even just because he's Ohio State's coach, but whenever I've seen him in the
With the
in his
beard.
press conferences and that, I just there's something about him that I just really didn't like. But you guys have seen that video, I'm sure, of the Michigan fan who like wants to get the selfie and then all of a sudden throws up the 4-0.
So funny.
Ryan
yeah.
Day's walk away. For whatever reason, I saw that and I thought Ryan Day handled it so well.
Right.
Good.
He was willing to stop for a fan and take a picture. That's number one. That was really awesome.
Sure.
And then when the guy was pranking him, he just kind of smiled and walked away.
He did laugh
Yeah.
it off.
So he earned
It
a
was
lot
perfect.
of points in my eyes. I thought
was
that was
perfect.
really awesome.
Yeah.
I like him a little bit more now.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You seem like a good guy there. Otherwise, I am Dog Team Rivalry on Twitter or X. That's DAWG Team Rivalry. You can find both Mac and I on the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show over on our channel on YouTube. And that's pretty much all I have because I have abandoned all other social media.
Way to be. What a change. Good. That's a good move right there.
Yeah, and I'm the Angry Pigskin on X. I feel like I need to change that and make it more me because everybody else has them on it, and I'm just a cartoon. So anyway, at B1G Team Rivalry on X, if you really want to find me there, I'm mostly just crap posting about things that actually I've been posting a lot about non-football related things. So I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Get into the mind of Mac.
Yeah.
And follow him in.
Don't do that.
No.
Don't want to be there.
It's not a
man.
good time.
Really appreciate you guys having us on. I hope you get to that 500 subs because you guys deserve it. I watch a lot of your videos, and you
Thanks
guys
so
are
much.
really smart. You know your football, so
Thank you.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that, fellas. Well, let's
But
kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
All right, you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Click like, subscribe. Help us to get to 500. You know, we had a really good 2024 season. We look forward to creating more content. You know, we're going to be at more games. And yeah, you know, we're looking forward to seeing what happens with Ohio State and other college football programs during the off season as well. So
We're the other
God
one.
bless. Go Bucks. And, you know, you guys could say you're go blue, whatever.
Go blue. Go blue. Also, go Broncos because they don't get enough love.
Respect.
Well,
Go
they
Broncos.
Represent the East Side of State. Go Eagles. What up?
there you go.
All right, you guys.
Thanks again,
Cool.
guys. Appreciate it.
Have a good night now.
Have a
Good night.
see ya.